Hey guys, so yesterday I made a video that I uploaded but did not make public because I had some editing to do, and by the time it was fully uploaded I was too tired last night. So I figured I was going to edit it and make it public today. But as I was waking up early this morning, a poem by Dylan Thomas came into my mind, and that is part of it is don't go gentle into that good night. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. And it reminded me of what targets of organized stalking are going through. The PSYOP team, the attackers, the stalkers, the perpetrators, almost have a dual agenda, right? On one hand, they want to silence us from speaking up about what's happening, right? They don't want us to tell people and explain to people what's happening to us. And they don't want us to complain about what's happening to us. They don't want us to complain about how bad it is or how much we're suffering. Right. On the other hand, it's not really silence they want from us because they want to drive us to a very loud, violent breakdown, an outburst, right? And if they can get us to start swinging back physically at the perpetrators, that's what they want, right? They want a negative response from us so that they can use that negative response against us. It's entrapment. It's a setup. But the attempt to silence people who are suffering ends up leading to that, to the latter, right? It's like if you take a kettle, and you close up all the vents and you put it on a stove and you keep turning the heat up. Well, there's no way for the steam to be released, and at some point that kettle is going to explode, and you don't want to be in the vicinity of that when that happens. The longer people are forced to suffer in silence, the more explosive their response is going to be when it finally comes, and it will. And the perpetrators know that. Well, the perpetrators might not. They're too stupid. But the PSYOP team, they understand that. Whoever's running this sick program, they know that. But, it's not just targets of organized stalking who are being sent the message to shut up and stop complaining. It's society as a whole. And political affiliation doesn't matter. Neither does race, gender, your social beliefs. Every single group is being sent the same message, right? They're being told that they should just shut up and stop complaining. And this is governmental. It's the government that is putting this crap out there. Because they do want a society of mindless lemmings who just shut up and take anything that's done to them. Right? Because obviously if people aren't complaining about crimes, those crimes can be continued indefinitely. Right? No one's going to stand against a crime they don't know is taking place. And it makes the work of the criminals easier if they don't have, their victims fighting back. But at the same time, that same government, again, it's dual agenda. It seems like they want the polar opposite, but it's not really the opposite. It all fits together very well for them, because in the end, they also want violence. In some ways, they don't want to silence the targets in a sense, because they want the target to go screaming mad, loud. They want a loud, violent outburst from the targets. But the initial act of silencing and suppressing, forcing the targets to suppress what's happening to them, to suppress their pain, to suppress their suffering, it ends up leading to that loud, violent outburst, right? And that's happening to the general public as well. The more people are forced to suffer in silence, the worse they break down in the end. Anyway, I just wanted to make this video, and I figured, what, I'm going to attach this to a video I made last night. I'm going to just delete the first one I uploaded and, attach this to the beginning of it. But I figured, no, what, I'm not going to try to make this mesh. It's not going to. I'm never going to get it perfectly. So I'm just telling you outright, this is the beginning of this video. What I'm talking about right now is the second video. And you'll be able to see that anyway, because now I'm sitting in a chair. In yesterday's video, I was standing up. So I'm just going to attach this to the beginning. I'm too tired to stand up and make this right now. They started tapping again today at like 5:30 a.m. and unfortunately it was so late I wasn't able to record it. I tried. I'm just tired. Anyway, on to yesterday's video. Hey guys, so a while back I recorded another venting video, which I uploaded, but I didn't make public, and I don't know if I'm going to. But I wanted to record another video just to to explain some of the things that have been going on over the last few weeks. It's been a crazy few weeks. So here goes. It's up and down. It's up and down. They, as I always say, they let you take a step forward and then they knock you back 10, right? Or 1,000, 10,000. We got a notice a while back that they were going to have a clinic come to vaccinate the residents and staff of the building. Vaccinate them for COVID, and I was so excited. I'm thinking, oh, finally, this nightmare is going to end, or at least, we'll be a little bit safer. It would take some pressure off me. I was so excited until I found out that domestic caregivers were not going to be vaccinated. Even though we don't work for an agency, right? We don't get paid. Therefore, we don't count to the people in the building. Luckily, I was able to get vaccinated, at least the first dose, at another location, another place I found. So I have actually had my first dose now, and so has my mom in the building. So I'm grateful for that. But it was just really upsetting to know that the people who work for free are once again being thrown under the rug, so to speak. They're brushed under the rug. They're being discarded. Right? They're just being brushed aside as if they don't count. Just because people don't get a salary does not mean they don't work. And when it comes to domestic caregivers, especially if they're caring for the sick or the elderly, they are frontline workers. I personally am a caregiver for my elderly mother. And also I interact, I come in contact with other people in the building, including elderly people, especially when I'm, doing laundry. It's important for us to be vaccinated. Look, I'm so grateful I was able to find another place that would do it. But it's ridiculous that the people who work for free just get they just get screwed over and over and over again. I mean, I'm not going to go into that rant, but that is something to think about. These people who are being looked over, brushed aside, are some of the hardest working, lowest paid, many of them not paid at all, taking care of their family members or someone else's family members, or, in some cases taking care of their family members while the rest of their family is running around yachting or going to amusement parks or doing whatever they do. But they get overlooked always. That responsibility is all on one person, and that one person falls through the cracks. But anyway, luckily for me, it turned out okay, but that doesn't mean it has for the other caregivers. Now, we just got a notice from the building that said they might have another round of first dose vaccines for for other people here who are caregivers, and that's good, but it should have been done the first damn time. And who knows if it's actually going to happen. I don't know if there are other people here too who are taking care of elderly, parents and relatives, and they're not getting paid for it. And they're live-in caregivers, and they're not getting paid for it because they don't work for an agency. They can't prove that they have a legitimate job and they're legitimate caregivers. So they're not eligible for the vaccine. And for a lot of them, it hasn't turned out well yet. They haven't been able to find another place where they can get vaccinated. So that's dangerous, and it's fucked up. Anyway, moving forward, the day that I went to get vaccinated, I used to take public transportation everywhere unless I walked, right? I eventually started walking a lot because of the perpetrators on public transport. But during, because of the pandemic, I'm not going to take public transportation. It's too dangerous. They have the perpetrators cough, and that can spread virus. Even if they don't think they have it, they can have it without knowing it and spread it without knowing it. It's just easier. It's safer to take rideshare. You're close to someone, but it's one person. You can open the window, instead of being on public transport with a lot of other people. And there aren't as many out now, but there are still enough. And all it takes is that one. And they will regularly cough around me. intentionally. Anyway, so I took rideshare there, and I got there, and okay, it's fine. Everything went well. I was worried, I was stressing, I was panicking because something always goes wrong, and I was sure that they were gonna figure out a way where I would not be able to get the vaccine, right? So I got there, and then what someone said to me, he said, we have to make sure we actually have it because they were out of it a few days ago. So I don't know if we have it back in yet. And I just fucking almost flew off into an absolute breakdown. But then he came back and said they have it. We're all good. So I was able to get it. Anyway, then I figured, okay, so I waited the 15 minutes, to make sure that there were no side effects. They have you wait 15 minutes, fine. Everything went fine. Then I went to leave and call rideshare again, and so I'm waiting for the rideshare driver, and it says he was fulfilling another job or whatever it said, and okay, fine, but it stayed on 7 minutes, and eventually he sent a message saying that he was stuck behind a truck, which it's entirely possible that that's the case. Even though there's not a lot of traffic out now in the city, normally there's a lot of traffic in the city, but now there's not because people aren't going anywhere, even to work. But it's still possible, especially on city streets, that he could have been stuck behind a truck. So fine. It was cold out, but even still, I was waiting outside just because it's safer than being inside in a closed area with other people who could have been exposed to the virus. You don't know. So I was waiting outside, and I was cold, and eventually he showed up, and okay, fine, he was nice enough, but his name, and I noticed this, from the app, his name is the same name as the guy that that the Gangstalking started with, and they have people like this pop up in my life every now and then, people I'm going to be close with, and I don't necessarily mean emotionally, but close with, in close proximity, whatever, who I'll be working with for a while. For almost a decade, I assumed that this entire nightmare, I didn't know what gang stalking was, and I assumed it started with the two people I had gotten in a fight with online, a man and a woman. I'm not going to say their names. So this driver had the guy's name, and thinking, well, great, he's probably one of them, just because of the delay, and now it's that same name, and he's working for them, right? But he was nice. He turned out to be a nice guy, and so and I always give 5 stars. I've never given less than that because, even if someone is rude, or I understand that, the rating system affects their job, and they could actually lose their job if it falls too low. So I have never given anyone less than the full positive rating. But this guy was nice, so of course I gave him the full rating as I do everyone, and I gave him a bigger tip because he was a nice guy, right? Okay, so he picked me up and dropped me off at the second location, and I figured I don't go out much anymore because it's actually even more stressful coming back because I have to sanitize everything, including myself, in order to keep my mom safe. I have to, put my sanitize everything before I come in. Then I have to put my dirty clothes in a bag. Then I have to take a shower, change everything. So I figured there were a few other things I had to do, and I would do them while I'm out, so I don't have to do this more than once, in a month. So. Because a few times, I've had to go out more than once, and it's too stressful. In a month, it's too stressful coming back. So I did that, and so he dropped me off at the second location, and he was nice about it. We said goodbye, right? Perpetrators followed me around, coughing under their breath, and I expected that. Fine, shit, fucking. Anyway, got done at the second location, third location. Was in walking distance, called the next rideshare driver. He gets there, it's cramped. He pulled up where there was a snowbank on one half, and so the only door I could get into was his side, on the driver's side. So I got in on that side, but he had his seat all the way back, so I was squashed in, and I thought about moving to the other side, but I couldn't maneuver. It was too cramped, too close, and I had my bags with me. It was a cramped ride, but he seemed nice, right? But then he was listening to a music station, and it was a Christian station, and a song came on, and the lyrics were, if you want God to help you, the reason God isn't helping you is because it's your fault. You're not, stop complaining, shut up and don't complain, stop stressing, watch your mouth, this and that and the other. But here's the thing. Before I left the apartment, and every time I leave the apartment, whether I'm going actually out of the building or if I'm just going out to take the garbage out or just going to do the laundry or just going downstairs to get the mail, my mom will tell me, pray. Well, the day that I went, for the vaccine, what I'm not going to say what day that was, but I was angry. I was stressed out because I was sure that something would go wrong, that I wouldn't be able to get the vaccine. I was grateful that I was approved to get it, at this location, but at the same time, I was afraid something would go wrong because the perpetrators always find a way to screw something up. As I said, they'll let me get a little excited and hopeful, and then they'll dash that hope with a sledgehammer. So I was kind of nervous already, and I was angry. I was angry with God, And she said, pray. And I said, what for? Does it ever help? Does it ever fucking work? What for? I was so angry. And I'm having more and more of those episodes, and I haven't lost faith. Then I feel bad about it. I feel bad because I love God. I love Jesus. But I just have those moments when things get so hard, and it's hard. It's just hard. So that morning, she said, pray. And I said, what for? Does it ever do any good? Okay. So the song he was playing was pretty much, it was telling people God has not answered your prayers because because of you. You're the reason God isn't answering your prayers. First of all, stop complaining. Well, we know Gangstalking is a governmental program, right? And what they want is for people to shut up and stop complaining, right? That's what fascist regimes want. That's what dictatorships want. They don't want outspoken people. They want a society of, apathetic lemmings who just shut up and take whatever is done to them. And who, of course, don't stand up for other people who are being tortured and harmed in any way, right? These people learn to suffer in silence. They learn to ignore other people's suffering. They adapt to a life without freedom, and I mean any freedom at all. Without freedom to even take a shit in private, right? They learn to accept that if they say the wrong thing, their lives can be obliterated by this program, which is really the worst type of warfare that has ever been waged on humanity. Whether, regardless of what we call it. Nowadays we call it gangstalking. When it was, it used to be called Zersetzung, right? That's what the Stasi did to anti-communists in East Germany. And it's biblical. This was done to biblical characters as well. Hunting, stalking, terrorizing, spying, slandering, lying, defaming, poisoning, all these horrible things. Just destroying someone's life. Dictators and controlling, fascists, they want a society of silent lemmings. They don't want you to speak up on your own behalf to defend yourself or to defend your family, no matter what's done to you, no matter how horrific. And they want you to suffer in silence, no matter how bad it is. Right? Shut up and take it quietly is what they want. And they don't want people to defend others either. They just want you to just shove your head in your ass and ignore everything that's going on around you. Stop. That's the part about stop complaining, the part about stop stressing, and this happens on both sides of the political spectrum, right? They just, every message people are being sent is to shut up, to stop complaining, to stop caring, this and that and the other. And what that means is you stop standing up against injustice, right? Which is the opposite message of what Jesus said. They would have called him a complainer. They would have called him an SJW. They would have shouted triggered at him, right? And that's on the far right. What would the far left do? The far left would blame him for all of the problems that he sees on the grounds that if he thinks it's real, then it must be real. That's the crap that's being fed to the far left. So it doesn't matter what political side you're on. The world rulers, the governments of the world are feeding this crap to every single group imaginable. They're just using different, by different means, right? Whatever works for every single, for each group they go to. That's what they use. So, for Christians, they're using this. They're telling people to shut up and stop complaining. And if you do that, Jesus will help you. Bullshit. Because what they consider complaining is speaking up against injustice. If you do that, they consider you complaining, right? If you cry when it hurts, you're complaining. If you see someone else hurting and you stand up for them against the wrong that was committed against them, they consider that a complaint. That's what they consider a complaint to be. So, gullible people will be influenced by this, and they might just stop complaining. And that means not only stop defending themselves against every kind of injustice and just lie down and become a doormat, but it means stop standing up against wrongs that are being committed against others, which then makes them useless to anyone, and of course godless, because Jesus had the opposite message. He said, first of all, his command was very simple, the golden rule: treat others the way you would want to be treated. Don't do unto others what you would not want others to do unto you. Simple as that. Everything else is based on that, right? If you were being harmed by someone and couldn't stop it, but others could, you would want them to say something. You would want them to defend you. So you can't, he said, go out and heal the sick, feed the hungry, right? The Bible says, speak up for those who have no voice. Defend those who are being treated unfairly and unjustly. But anytime you do that, you're going to be called a complainer. So it's kind of, on the one hand, the perpetrators will complain about absolutely anything. If you're a target, you even flinch, they're going to complain about you over something worthless and nothing. But if you stand up for something valid, they're going to call you the complainer. It's hard. And two, if you stop speaking up against wrongs that are being committed against you, and if you stop telling your story and you stop speaking out about how horrific these things are, the perpetrators can say, well, it wasn't so bad. See, everything is fine. He or she is perfectly fine. Right? If you don't tell the truth and explain how this affected you, how bad this was, what happened, they're going to say, well, nothing happened at all. Because what they try to do is hide the consequences of their crimes, right? You suffer behind closed doors. Nobody can see your suffering. If no one thinks it exists, they're not going to stand against the crime that's causing it. Okay, the perpetrators will do anything in their power to silence victims. Anyway, so that was the song that was playing, and I know what it meant, right? So I got out of his car, cramped. He was still nice. And again, I still gave him the full 5 stars, right? And I tipped him too. Got back, walked into the building, and the first person I saw, the attendant in the building, his name tag was the same name as the guy that I was talking about earlier. The one who I thought this all started with a decade ago. Who one of the rideshare drivers whose name that was as well. And I don't know if this guy is a new employee here or if they just put him up front for that one day for that one purpose. Either way, it was a day of provocations, and they were just letting me know, hey, we're still here, right? And today, there are provocations all day long. They've been slamming doors hard. They've been pounding on their floor, which is our ceiling. They've been scraping on and off. It's been miserable. They've been tapping. They keep waking me up at like 3:30 a.m. And there are a lot of provocations, and I can't, they won't shut the F up. They just keep going and going and going and going and going. It's hard, and it's getting harder. The prank calls are still coming in. The false prophet is still calling and leaving those horrible messages. I don't know what to say. Anyway, I just wanted to make a video to explain what's been going on. I know I'm going to leave something out. I'm sure I've left something out. I'm trying to think now before I close this. Oh well. Peace for now. I wish, right?